Hey, so why was Oprah fired? I'm sure you want to know, and I'm here to tell you. Listen, this episode is based off of a docu-series that was just recently released by Hulu called The Hair Tales. It leads audiences through a revelatory journey connecting the personal tales of phenomenal Black women to broader societal and historical themes. Hair Tales, which was produced by Tracy Ellis Ross, Michaela Angela Davis, and Oprah Winfrey, talks about the untold stories and political issues, societal issues, emotional issues surrounding Black hair, surrounding specifically Black women and their hair. And I was couldn't wait to see this series because being a veteran in the hair care industry, I was curious to hear the stories of these Black women, these phenomenal Black women that we see in society who have accomplished and done so much, but have these stories, have these emotions, have these issues when it comes to their hair. And these are things that I was already aware of because I am a professional in the industry and I've been hands-on with it for so long. I was not surprised by some of the things that I learned through the series. But the series premiered with Oprah Winfrey talking about her hair journey. And if anybody who, especially in the Black culture, has been exposed to Oprah, or you're into fashion or hair or any kind of thing at all, you have at some point in your life looked at Oprah and her style or her hair as a benchmark of, oh, this is what I want. Oh, I want to do that. Even as a Black man in the industry, I've looked at her as, and I can remember certain styles that she wore, the flip. If you guys remember the layered flip, I used to do that on all day long in the salon. I used to couldn't wait to go into the salon and find what client I was going to do that look, the full body flip layered look. I remember even a couple of her curlier styles when she started to wear some of the curlier styles with the little streaks of hair color in it. Those are things that I took inspiration from to do services on clients. So I think Oprah throughout the years has been an inspiration for many Black women when it comes to hair. Her hair journey is one that I think is phenomenal, because if you go back to some of her pictures as a young girl and you look at her today and you see all of the looks, all of the styles, it allows you to see, as a Black woman, the power of your hair, the power of what hair can do for you as an individual, not only professionally, but just in society at large. But I was so taken when I found out why Oprah was fired, and she talks about this in her docu-series, in the series on Hulu, which you can find right now today. It's called The Hair Tales. But she talks about why she was fired. Now, she went into the broadcast industry with a in a very mature way, if I do say so myself. And this is her telling her story. This is just me recanting her story and understanding what she was saying. She went in very maturely and understanding the space and what it meant for her as a Black woman to be in that space at an early age. And I'm talking about 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 years old, very young in the broadcast industry, on camera as a Black woman with textured hair. Now, when she says in her interview, when she went out to do these field jobs, you know how the reporter goes to sites and they get interviews from some of the people standing around at whatever has happened. Well, we talked about an incident where there was a woman whose house had burned down, and she showed up on the scene to do the reporting. And she remembers the woman was outside, and she had all these rollers in her hair. And this is just one incident that she talked about, but she said she did this often, when she would go and she would interview her Black women, and sometimes on camera, and maybe they were looking disheveled by the hair or something. And it was not I just want to put this out there. It was not a point of her trying to demean or make them feel less than. What she would tell them, and I'm gonna tell you why I said that, but what she would tell these people in the incident where the woman had the rollers in her hair, she said, well, maybe, and she took her off to the side, maybe you want to, take your rollers out and, kind of, before we do our interview, and she said she used to do that with people that she would run into, specifically Black people, Black women, more specifically, because she understood, being in the space or in the media industry, she understood the perception of us, especially when our hair was not tamed. And because she understood that, she wanted to make sure everybody that she talked to on camera, she felt an obligation to make sure that they were seen in the right light. And she understood that if their hair was all over their head and they were looking somewhat quote unquote untamed by the head, that they will be perceived a certain way, which could be completely off as to who they were, but because of the image of what mainstream media thought about Black women or even black men when their hair was all over their head, it could send the wrong message. So she would often lend herself to try to help these individuals kind of just look a little more presentable by the head, specifically their hair, not the wardrobe, all that, just their hair. You know what I mean? Like maybe you want to just tame it. And I understand why she did that, because it's very true, especially back in that day. We're talking about in the 70s, you know what I mean? Late 70s, when, you know, we already had our own stereotypes and societal issues as pertains to hair. But what she was really, the point she was bringing out when she mentioned that, and she mentioned that our hair, she was speaking as a Black woman, is more than just about a state of style or beauty. It's political. It's political. And if we show up somewhere in certain areas or in certain scenes with our hair all over our head, we often are looked at as less than, you know, as if we can't or shouldn't be in the room. You get what I'm saying? She says out of her own mouth, and I think it was so remarkable that she can perceive that and understand that from at this stage of her career. She said, if I had showed up in my career early on with this thought or this demand that I'm going to wear my hair the way I want, I'm going to wear braids, you know, I'm not going to be picked apart by my head, she said I would not be where I am today. She understood that when she came into the business, that her hair was a huge part of how she was received, perceived, and accepted. So why was she fired, though? She said she was fired because of the fact that she tried to make sure that her Black women specifically were presentable when she went on to interview them. You know what I mean? She would just give them little tips. And often, maybe, I'm not saying this was the case because she didn't really speak on why, but maybe they didn't want them to look well put together, or they didn't want them to look combed or tamed or groomed. They wanted them to look disheveled and wild and what have you, because they wanted to perpetuate that stereotype. Even if they were of a different class of society, just the perception is what it was. I don't know why the powers that be decided to fire her, but that's what they did. And she said this was early on in her career. So I guess she learned that. But what really took me when she started talking about how she was in the industry, and this was later on in her career, she was still in broadcast media, and the I'll just say the powers that be came to her and said that her hair was too thick for what she was doing on camera. The chroma key, which is the thing that they use when they're talking about a backdrop in front of you, and it helps the images. It's kind of like, it's equivalent to those that use maybe green screens now, when you use a green screen and then you take the image of whatever is on the green screen and you place another background behind it. You know, we've seen a lot of that in our Zoom life over the last couple of years, but the chroma key was unable to detect where to put the image or place the image because her hair was too textured. So they suggested that she go visit the salon in New York. They set it up that she go visit. And not only did they suggest that she go visit the salon in New York, but they also said, have you ever thought about doing surgery, plastic surgery? And I'm like, oh my God. Now, I'm not surprised by this, but I guess just to hear the story is like, wow. And they said, because your eyes, if you have noticed, your eyes are a little wide set apart, and your nose is a little thick. And she immediately said, no, you know, she wasn't open to that. But she was open to going to the salon that they suggested in New York. And she did do that. She said she walks into the salon in New York, and there's like all of these French individuals, white French people in the salon. And she walked in and immediately was like, because she knew her hair was different. She understood Black hair, and she understood that everybody, even though they were in the field of hair care, didn't understand black hair. So she walks in at 22 years old in the salon, and she asks the gentleman, "Do you guys do black hair?" And he says, "Oh, we do black hair, we do red hair, we do blonde hair, we do your hair." So she said, "Okay," and she sat down, and he puts a relaxer in her hair, and she's sitting with the relaxer, and she said it's starting, to tingle. Is this, can we take this out? And she says, he said, "Oh no, we have 8 more minutes." And she said by the time they reached the bowl, she said she had, her hair was almost, her scalp was bruised and melting. And if you've ever had a relaxer or a chemical burn in your scalp, you understand what I'm talking about. Her hair was melting to her head, essentially, you know what I mean, because the relaxer had burnt her, and her scalp was scabbed for weeks. And she said she left that salon and she was traumatized, and she said she never let anybody touch her hair for another 8 years. She said after she got back to the broadcast studio, realizing, and I would like to know, and they didn't go into that interview, I would like to know what the powers that be who suggested that she go to the salon in New York to get her hair done. I would like to know what their response was when she showed up with scabs, her scalp scabbed, and her hair falling out in the clumps. Anyway, she ended up, by the suggestion of another woman that she came in contact with, a black woman, black sister, suggested that she go ahead and cut it off. And she said that traumatized her even more. Because not only was her hair, she lost hair and her scalp was oozing and scabbed and all that kind of stuff. But now she's embracing this idea, okay, well, maybe I need to just cut it all off. After being raised with hair being such a thing, in her family, and her grandmother cared for her hair, and it was just, she's a part of her identity, she said. And even now, and those who know Oprah, we often, beyond her skill set as a media mogul and broadcast media individual, her hair is a highlight. I mean, we in our culture praise and kind of, celebrate her hair because it's one that's thick, you know what I mean, and beautiful and always looking healthy. So she's an ideal person when it comes to, oh my God, I want a thick head of hair that looks healthy. This is the kind of hair I want. You point to her. But she returns back to the studio, and I don't know how long after, but she ends up getting this short afro, and that's when we see her in the short jerry curl, and she wore that for a long time until her hair grew out. And she said it was 8 years before she trusted anybody else with her hair. And I bring this story to us because this is just one person of great influence and who's prominent in our society who has a story about hair care. But this is not, as a hair professional, I'm here to tell people that this is not unique to Oprah. This is not unique to Oprah. Oprah's story is thousands, hundreds, millions of black women's story around the world, because they have been put into the society where their hair texture, their hair color, you know what I mean? Because we ain't even talking about gray hair, because women have started to embrace gray hair now, but there was a period in time where gray hair was taboo. If women didn't want that gray to show. You wasn't showing no gray hair. They gonna rinse and wash and repeat every time they got a chance when they saw gray hair. So there is something to be said about black women in their hair. And I understand this because I've been in the industry. I've been behind the scenes, which is why I was so elated and excited and just on point when it came to this documentary that they're bringing, this docuseries that they're doing, because it's now telling the tales or the stories and the things that I've had to listen to and I've had to contend with clients, and I've had to kind of coach and help women through. Because when you're a hair professional and you've been in the industry any length of time and you've built a rapport with a group of women and you're servicing them every week, every month, however often you do so, there's a certain level of not only trust that comes with it, but a certain level of value that comes with that relationship. Because what people don't understand about black women in their hair is it takes a sense of a certain vulnerability for black women to come into your space, sit in your chair, unveil themselves. Because keep in mind, when they're taking their wigs off, they're taking their bonnets off, and they're taking their rollers out, or they're taking their hair units off, they're uncovering and unveiling a certain vulnerability with you as a professional. And it's our job as the professional not only to understand that, but to care for them in that manner. It's our responsibility to care for them in that manner. That's why, and I know some husbands and men out there try to understand, but that's why the relationship between your wife and her hairstylist, or your girlfriend and her hairstylist, is so treasured. You know what I mean? Oftentimes, if you spend any length of time with a stylist, they almost become a part of the family, even if they don't know the rest of your family. You go home, you talk about them, you tell stories about what happened, you share things. As a woman, they become a part of who you are. And I want people to understand that. I'm talking about people outside of the Black culture, because oftentimes we're admired and about our hair, and my light just turned off. Okay, there we go. Oftentimes we're admired about our hair, and we're looked at as, oh my gosh, your hair, your curls, oh my gosh, by other people outside of the Black culture, but they don't really understand the struggle, the journey, why our hair is not only a societal issue, a political issue, an emotional issue. This series on Hulu, The Hair Tales, will give you insight as to the bigger picture of hair when it comes to Black women. And it'll help you understand why Black women are so serious about it. Let me help you. If if a Black woman's hair is not looking good, her ain't nothing good. Her face can be beat. She can have on the nicest outfit. She could be well situated in her body, but if her hair is looking bad, we got to do something. I have literally been in rooms. I have literally been exposed to. I've literally been in situations where a woman is just does not like her hair, and it has drawn her to tears, full tears. And I don't take that lightly, because I understand the struggle. I understand what it means. I understand what the hair does for the Black woman. So I just encourage you. I encourage you to go and watch this series to get an understanding of the historical themes, the societal themes, the political themes, the personal journeys of some of the Black women that you admire in entertainment and business, etc., who share their journey, their stories of hair care. I think it will open you up to another perspective and help you have a little more empathy and understanding when it comes to Black women and their hair. So, why was Oprah fired? She was fired because she was doing something that we all should do: help our sisters and our brothers now, because the men are wearing hair. They got hair just like women. You know, they're letting their hair grow out and looking, and it looks nice, but there's still a level or of there's still a level of judgment when it comes to society and what they deem as acceptable, and who they deem it acceptable from. You get what I'm saying? I think we need to do away with all of that. All of that. I think we need to do away with all of that and allow hair to be what it is: an expression of personal identity. Whether you want to wear it short, whether you want to wear it shaven, let it be an expression of that individual, that personal identity of that individual. Because something that a woman said on the documentary the other day, and I thought it was so brilliant. She said, because you don't need hair to wear a crown. A lot of times Black women have looked at hair as their crown and glory, and it is as it pertains to what it means in value to the Black woman. But you don't need hair to wear a crown. So I think if we as a society do away with some of the issues and the perceptions and the stereotypes as pertains to the hair of Black women and men, I think we would be able to, one, free up a lot of people that take so many, and because there are still today so many people who have personal insecurities about their hair because they want to be accepted, because they don't want to be accepted, they just don't want to turn off. You know what I mean? Maybe it's not the fact that I'm ashamed of my hair. I like my curls, I like my texture, I like this and that, but I don't want to turn off the boss. So I don't want to turn off the so-and-so when I walk into the boardroom or when I walk into the office. You know what I mean? So I mean, I've seen it, I've heard it. This is my life. I've been in this world for so long, and I understand what happens around women. I'll just tell you this story. I had a client who wanted to start wearing her gray hair, and she said, "Well, I'm gonna wait till I retire." She was like a year and a half out because she had this idea of wearing gray hair to the office. She was in a corporate position, was going to I don't know if it was going to make her look as if she didn't belong, or as if she wasn't as polished as maybe some of her colleagues, or if it was just that maybe it would make her look aged, this whole idea of ageism in corporate America. Whatever it was, she was determined to just keep coloring her hair until she retired. And when she retired, what did she do? She allowed the color to grow out, and she still gets color still here and there, but she is not as gun-ho about it as she was. This is something that happens with Black women all day long, and it's just so uh, just baffling to me, because the Black woman has dealt with so much in society since we can remember, and they're still having to fight about something that's personally belonged to them. You know what I mean? This is my hair. I gotta fight about how it's supposed to be styled. I gotta argue about where the way I wear it. I gotta be bogged down with if it's shaped and cut and curled or styled properly in order to be accepted, in order to do what it is that I do in my profession, or in my society, in my community, or whatever it is. How unnecessary is that? So unnecessary. So as a hair care professional with more than 25 years in the industry, I am so excited, and shout out to Onyx and Own for this Hair Tales docu-series. I'm excited to tell everybody about it, as you see I am right now. And I want everybody who, whether you have been in the story, or whether you've been a partaker of the story, you understand the vulnerabilities, you understand the issues, or you've just witnessed it, you know what I mean? Or you've had to coach people through it like me, or you just want to understand it because you just have this Black girlfriend and you just love how you just want to understand how she changes her hair up every week and she look like a whole different person. Whatever end of the spectrum or wherever you're placed in that, I think this is an informative documentary that will be insightful to all of us. So take a look on Hulu, The Hair Tales, produced by Tracy Ellis Ross, Oprah Winfrey, and Michaela Angela Davis. I'll see you next time right here on YouTube. Thank you so much for joining me. Until next time, Cornell. Peace.